Hello everyone, the Bloodnok Channel returns to its regular studio. So what could you create with all these cameras?
Hello and welcome to the Dennis Bloodnok Channel.
YouTubers, in much of this video I am wearing this waistcoat, or if you are in the United States, this vest. Now, if you look closely, this isn't actually black. It's a very dark blue colour and it has very thin pinstripes. Now, it is a test of the video quality with these two cameras, the Nikon D7000 and the Samsung NX10. It is a test of their respective video quality as to how well this pinstripe and the colour of this waistcoat, how well this shows up. Hello YouTubers. What happens if you decided to take two cameras that were both 10 years old as of today's date, the 5th of February 2020, the first camera being the Samsung NX10, complete with its 18 to 55mm kit lens and the 30mm pancake lens, the f2. You put that up against another APS-C camera, namely the Nikon D7000, its kit lens, the 18 to 55, and the portrait lens, the 35mm f8. So what could you create with all these cameras? Well, here are the two main subjects of this video, namely the Nikon D7000 and the Samsung NX10, complete with the two lenses that I bought initially with each camera, namely the 30mm f2 pancake lens with the Samsung and the 35mm f1.8 portrait lens with the Nikon, and furthermore the kit lenses, the 18 to 55 on the left with the Samsung and the 18 to 105 on the right with the Nikon. This video is going to be a comparison of these two cameras in comparison to how has photography, for both digital photography with regard to stills and video, how has it moved on in the last 10 years? Here are examples of online advertisements for both of these cameras with their respective kit lenses for sale right now at the point that this video was published, 3rd and 4th of February 2020. To create a level playing field for this test, all footage has been shot at 720p. Samsung is not able to shoot 1080p. Furthermore, all footage has been shot using the onboard microphones of each individual camera for the sound recording, so no other external microphones were used. This first part of the video test involves the Samsung NX10 with the 30mm f2 pancake lens. And of course the big advantage of the Samsung is the autofocus for video. As you can see, the subject matter of this particular video is the Canon EOS Rebel G2, and there is a link to my review of this particular 35mm stills camera at the top of the screen. This particular video footage is shot on the Samsung NX10 with the 30mm f2 pancake lens. Staying with the Samsung, we now switch to the 18 to 55mm kit lens. Now at the present moment it's about halfway through its zoom cycle, so we'll try it at both ends of the zoom cycle. So this is the Samsung at 18mm, and then this is the Samsung fully zoomed in at 55mm. In this part of the video, to add a bit more content, I have added the 30mm f2 pancake lens, and also we can see what the 18 to 55mm zoom looks like. The one particular advantage, of course, of this Samsung camera is that it does have autofocus in video.
Hello and welcome to the Dennis Bloodnok Channel.
And now we switch to the Nikon D7000, complete with the 35mm f1.8 DX lens, the portrait lens. Another example of the autofocus for video on the Nikon D7000. Now this part of the video is being shot using the Nikon D7000 with the 35mm f1.8 portrait lens. Now, just to even up the comparison with these two videos, the Nikon is shooting at f2 rather than its maximum f1.8 due to the fact that the Samsung can only shoot at f2. Now, if we move around the camera, you can see how things look. And of course, the autofocus for video. Okay, video shooting has now switched to the 18 to 105mm f3.5 to 6.3 lens on the Nikon D7000. Now, as you can see, the zoom on this is even more powerful than it is on the Samsung. And if we engage the zoom and the autofocus, you can see the autofocus in action, or not in action, as the case may be.
Hello, boys. I bet you're a bit disappointed, aren't you, lads?
And so, for the main video quality test, this is 1080p footage shot on the Nikon D7000 at 24p using the 18 to 105mm kit lens. And now, here is some 720p footage shot on the Samsung NX10 using the 18 to 55mm kit lens, but using a bit of software I have upgraded this to 1080p. So let's see the comparison in video quality.
Hello and welcome to the Dennis Bloodnok Channel.
Well, YouTubers, we have now reached the part of this comparison of this competition video which covers the subject of still image quality. In both cases, I have taken a series of images which are of nature, street, architecture and general outdoors and location images across several locations across the UK. on days of varying weather. Basically, there are some images taken in warm, sunny conditions and other images taken on dull, overcast days. Now, this is also the quiz part of the video, because all of the images I am going to show you are all unedited images taken straight out of the two cameras, the Samsung NX10 and the Nikon D7000. But I'm not going to tell you which sequence of images comes from which camera. I'll let you work that out, and you can leave your answers in the comments section below this video. Well, finally, we switched to the Nikon D7000, but with the 18-105 kit lens. Now, as you may have seen in my initial review of the Nikon D7000, and I'll put a link to that at the top of the page, top of the screen. The autofocus for video on the Nikon D7000 with this exact lens, the 18-105 kit lens, that autofocus is at best highly mediocre, and at worst, as you have seen with the previous footage with the 35mm f1.8 lens, at worst there is no autofocus. So in this case I have used manual focus. My conclusions with regard to these two cameras are that the Samsung NX10, it's a very small light camera with small light reasonable quality lenses that is a lot easier to carry around than the Nikon. The autofocus for stills is quite good. Maybe it's not quite as good as the Nikon D7000, but it's still more than capable. And of course the autofocus for video on the NX10 wipes the floor with the autofocus for video on the D7000. Video quality though on the D7000 certainly has the edge over that on the Samsung. Sound quality I would give as a draw. I think the built-in microphones on both cameras are quite reasonable. And when you bring into account the price of the two cameras, I mean, you have change from £100 for this particular camera and lens combination, and the fact that for less than £250 you can have that kit lens with the D7000, both of these cameras represent very good value for money as used buys. In conclusion, whether you choose the Nikon D7000 or the Samsung NX10, well, the Nikon is a more, for want of a better description, available camera. You're going to find more examples of a Nikon, and there is a huge number of lenses available for the F-mount on the camera. Meanwhile, the Samsung, although a very good camera, Samsung unfortunately pulled out of the camera market, so you're not going to find a great deal of support for this camera. Having said that, it does represent good value for money and a good camera system.